Okay, so I think Omar Gibran would like to add to it.
By the way, I met this gentleman after 9/11, and he cooks dynamite chicken.
The spices that affected you later here. That's a difficult question to answer, but you have to answer this because you look at the history and you can't change history in a sense. And the question regarding the extermination of some tribes or expelling of the tribes circles around treaties that Muhammad had with the tribes, I'm lost my voice, had with the tribes at that time. And the people of Mecca came to exterminate the religion of Islam. So those tribes at that time took the side of the people to attack or be on the side against Muhammad. And that is history in Islam. And that's why it was a fight. It wasn't a transgression as far as this. The treaty was not kept, and that's why Muhammad went ahead and did what he did.
Can I add something? One of the things also we have to add is we will see how Islam treated the Jews. Islam at the time Muhammad and after kept the right for the Jews. No Muslim allowed to kill a Jew or to stop him from his right. And we see that after the Prophet ﷺ, the Khalifa Umar and Abu Bakr, they used to give money to the Jew, to the poor Jewish, exactly like Muslim. And they say that any Muslim who kill a Jew, he will be in prison or be judged as he committed a crime. So Jews were having a lot of stability there, protection. So what happened politically have nothing to do with what Islam really look at Jews, because they look at them as the people of the book, give them the right of a Muslim, and we could see this transfer later on in Spain, and the Muslim world became the only oasis until now for Jews. Europe treated the Jews through history where all the time, every time the Jews will run to the Muslim world, and that's because Islam allows there. And it's part of our religion. No other religion accepted other religion as Islam accepted Judaism and Christianity. So this is something unique about Islam.
I hope that answered it.
Okay, next question. Does Islam education teach peace with other religions, particularly Judaism?
I think it's basically already been answered in the last question, as well as in my talk. I can go into, does Abdullah want to say something about this?
I think you've asked the question.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's go on. Are marriages still prearranged?
Well, there is cultural things, like I said, and there are religious things. What? You want to speak, Omar?
Can I say something?
Go ahead. Faryal is from Saudi Arabia. Go ahead, take the mic.
We're talking about marriage is Islam, actually, because when you're talking about arranged marriage, a lot of people come with the idea of the Indian style, which doesn't exist in the Arab world. In Islam, a woman, first of all, cannot get married without her permission. She has to agree to it. If she doesn't agree, it's not a marriage. So that's first. Second, in the Muslim world, it's not arranged as people think. It's arranged with what I think it's a lot of Jews now. I know they're doing it with I don't know what they call it. This a lady, she knows people, which is the same. It's just introduction. Like in the West here, we see people going to a single club. And all this in the Muslim, and I know a lot of Jews there also, they don't do that. Because when you marry, you not marry a person. You marry the family. You marry a lot of things. And that's why marriage to us is very important. Yeah. Only thing left for me is to know that my husband, his behavior. But in a lot of the modern marriage, we see you marry a person and you discover he's a serial killer, or he's not. God knows where he came from. So we don't have that.
Thank you. If so many of the world's Muslims are non-violent, Why don't we see more anti-violence demonstrations by peace-seeking Muslims?
Good question. I'm asked that all the time. Many levels to answer it. One is love, peace. Gatherings like this do not make headlines. Negative things do. B, religion has one part, but there's politics. And people mix religion with politics. It's been done all the time. And it's been done more recently than was in the past. And people forget that we went through colonialization of the West, of the Muslim countries. Some people with this last Iraq war read about how Iraq was formed by the British and how but until 1921 we did have the Caliphate which was broken, and all the Muslims, all the Arab lands and Turkey were under one nation, under one leader. What is colonialization? I mean, I hate to get into politics, but there's no way to avoid it. Basically, what that involves is a foreign power ruling an indigenous people for economic advantage, i.e. taking more goods out than they bring in. And Pakistan, where I'm from, Morocco, a lot of countries got freedom, so-called, so that we don't have power with a viceroy from London. We have local people. We tried democracy, but the democratic institutions and the democratic systems does not seem to be working. And I don't say that, but I mean, that's just one of the facts. And so there's a lot of people that are, or at least some people that turn to religion as the last resort because the democratic system has not worked and they do not have any other place to turn to, and religion is the last resort. And the worst part is that some of these politicians use religions as a red issue and to try to get votes and to get these people. And so that's why I said I would like, hopefully, since we have the pillars of Islam and some of the understanding, hopefully we can discuss these issues only in our next lecture because it requires more time and there are more questions. Yes, George? Go ahead.
You know, a lot of people ask us why we don't participate. It's very simple. If you know where we're coming from, all the government in the Middle East dictatorship, you cannot meet us.
The mic. Check the mic, people cannot hear without a mic.
You know, most of the government, I think all of them, in the government of the Middle East, they are dictatorship, supported by the West and giving, what you call it, political legality. And those governments, they don't allow us to participate in any of those things. And unfortunately, the people coming from the Middle East, we're coming with a lot of baggage. We're coming here scared. And we come here, and then, as you see lately, the Patriot Act is another reminder that we people from the Middle East, wherever we go, we're not going to be free. We're not going to, we left the Middle East, we thought we're going to have here democracy, and we hear everything happening in the Middle East is going to come and haunt us back. So a lot of people from the Middle East are scared. And I tell you, there is only a few of us who we had the guts to go out. I've been going on, and I remember my husband met another Muslim guy, and he said, "Oh, I know your wife is very active, and she's gonna cause us that all of us gonna be rounded up and sent back." I mean, what I'm doing is that, but that's the fear. People still scared, and you don't blame them because with what's going on even here in the state with terrorism, we don't know what they're looking for, and people going to prison, and we don't know where they're going, what they did. We have no idea, and that scares us more. So we are between the two, here and back there. Very scary.
Sounds like she's Jewish.
We are the new Jews now.
One more question, and then I'm going to open it up to the audience, okay? All right?
Okay.
And I don't know if you can answer this question in a minute or two, but please try. Was Ishmael the son of Abraham the founder of Islam? If yes, how was the religion formed? You got a minute and a half.
Well, the answer is there, but one of the things that I did not mention was that Islam is not a new religion. We believe, in fact, I mentioned several of the prophets. The Quran has 26 of the prophets mentioned, of the past prophets. God always sent the prophets to guide the mankind, but then mankind went astray, so another prophet was sent until the seal of the prophets, Muhammad, came. And it's interesting that we praise Moses and his progeny in our 5-time prayer, which I calculated is about 23 times. And so this is a matter of faith. Ibrahim, I'm sorry, and I don't want to tread on other people, but the thing is that we believe that that Muhammad was the last Messiah that Moses talked about, and the Jews don't accept that, and so that's fine, as far as I'm concerned. Go ahead. Yeah, Umar, you want to answer?
Sometimes what they say, you gotta call a spade a spade. In the Islamic teachings in the Quran, it specifically says about the Prophet Abraham, that he was a nation, and he was neither a Jew nor a Christian, but he was a Muslim. He submitted himself to God, and then he had Isaac and Ismail, and the 2 cousins. And then we believe in this, Isaac, Jacob, Joseph, and then Ismail and the other prophets. So it's a continuous chain of prophets that leads to the one God that's up above.
Thank you. Well, come up here. I don't have a long enough cord.
As a matter of fact, I would like to mention something. When we say about Ismail, Ismail is the father of the Arabs. Isaac, we believe, is the father of the Jews. But the Islam started with the Prophet Ibrahim, may peace be upon him, because we Muslims believe very much that Ibrahim you call him Abraham, started the religion of Islam. Islam is to submit yourself, to have peace from within yourself by submitting your wills, yourself, your all to the Creator, the only one. So Islam did not start with Ishmael, as the question is saying. We believe that Ishmael is the father of the Arabs, and there is a big difference between Arabs and Muslims. There is a huge difference, and like the speaker mentioned, today the Arabs represent less than 20% of the Muslims all over the world. Much less than 20%, definitely, because there is almost 1.6 billion Muslims all over the world. The Arabs are nothing, no more than 300. So there is a big difference between Muslims and Arabs. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, guys, it's your turn now. Who wants to go first?
There's a young lady on the left.
I don't know if this is it.
Well, come.
What are Kurds?
Kurds? Actually, the word is Kurd in Arabic. It's hard to pronounce in English, I guess. Sharif, you want to elaborate on that? They are... But you didn't need a mic. Come here. The thing is, the vast majority of Muslims are Sunnis, which I am. And then we have, believe it or not, there was a question asked before, there were about 80 sects in Islam, but it's on minute details, just like we have Methodist Church and stuff like that.
The Kurds are tribes. They think they are Indo-European tribes. So even the language is Indo-European. They live between Turkey, Iran, Iraq, Syria. So they are in that part of the world, the Kurds. And they've been asking for independence for a long time, and you know, it's very, we find the Turks, they want to give them because it means Turkey is going to lose the southern part of Turkey. Iraq wouldn't give them their independence because they're going to lose the northern part. Syria is going to lose the eastern part. So the Kurds is more like a mountain people. They have never been really a state. They are more like mountain and a fighter. So that's... Of course they're Muslim, because are Muslim, and if anybody heard about Salah ad-Din...
Sir, I now understand why. In the Middle Eastern countries, you treat your women the way you do. Excuse me. You're excused.
I would like to add something. And although there was a promise from the beginning not to take top politics, but this is the core of the politics here, the core of the politics. Kurdistan was a great country in that part of the world some time ago. And when the British colonized that part of the world, they broke that great state into three parts. Part went to Turkey, and part went to Iraq, and part went to Iraq. But they were a nation. And Saladin, we all know about Saladin. Saladin was one of them who fought the Crusaders and kicked them out of Jerusalem one day during the history. And these are the people whom Saladin came from. So it was an independent state, and the British, we all know what the British did to that area, and they broke that state in order to ensure that the people of that area will fight until the doomsday, and that's what we are seeing now. The Kurds are fighting with the Arabs, the Kurds are fighting with the Turks, the Iranians are fighting with the Kurds, and everybody is fighting with everybody.
And we're fighting with the microphone.
The thing I would like to add while he's fixing the mic is that in the last 2 centuries and all that, there was nationalism and different divisions and all that, but a lot of people in all the countries are trying to come back to the fundamentals of Islam and get away from these minute things or the cultural things and come back to the original message. Yes, George?
Was the guy that left to be a Kurd?
He went out to buy some Valium, I think.
Nick, I submitted 3 questions to George a while back, and I understand
Are you done?
I gave you a copy. I would enjoy hearing your answers.
Well, the first question is it true that the Arab world in general wants to see Israel disappear, to be driven into the sea? Have all the Arab Muslim countries ever... Yes, sir? Okay, I thought you had given it.
You have another one there. All right. Is it said that Islam is a religion of peace? Can you as an imam, a teacher of Islam, explain how it is that the countries from which terrorists come, or countries that give funds, or shelter, or training, or in any way sponsor terrorism, are almost all Islamic? I cite Algeria, Chechnya, Egypt, Iran, Iraq, Jordan, Lebanon, Libya, Morocco, Saudi Arabia, Syria, and others. There are some Islamic countries that do not fall into this category, but almost all countries connected to terrorism are Islamic.
Can I answer this? Can I answer this? At least I want to add a part. This is the trend of the questions tonight. But please let me make a comment. If we look to Ireland, why doesn't everybody say that the Catholics are terrorists? They are fighting, they are using terrorism. Why don't we say that Catholics are terrorists? Why, when a Muslim person appears on the podium, we all try to attach the word terrorism to Islam in order to, please, let us be
I don't think anybody's trying to do that. I really don't think. I don't think anybody's trying to do that at all.
This is a meeting of the minds to try to mend things and explain things and be together. When we leave here, we don't want to leave with any ill feelings and hard feelings inside. That's really the purpose of this, is we want to talk about politics and this and that. And I don't think that's a fair question, because that would it goes against your agenda as far as this, a moderator of this meeting.
Well, Al.
George didn't read the sentence that I wrote preceding the question, which reads, "This question may be perceived as being hostile to Islam, but it is not really meant to be that." Now, you were the gentleman who said, we can't find history, facts are facts. And what has come to the world's attention recently, with all the terrorism, including Ireland, but this has come to the forefront of the wars and all that. And the fact does remain that the countries who have given help to the terrorists in one form or another, most...
Fact remains, you're not using the mic and we can't hear you.
I would like to add to that. The countries that gave help to the terrorists are also the United States. Okay? All right. So let's call a spade, because the Western world has also helped the terrorists. We have supported a lot of terrorists. You may not have.
I would comment in defense of these folks from Islam that more people are killed by terrorists who are Americans in the United States every month than all of the Islamic terrorists have killed. Only we call them gangs. They're terrorists. They kill innocent people. They do drive-by shootings. Now, if I could ask a question, two parts. When did the division occur between the Shiites and the Sunnis? And are there basic differences in their theology?
That's a good question. The differences are not as doctrinal as in Christianity. It happened pretty much after the Prophet's death, in that who would succeed the Prophet as the leader of the Muslims. And some people believe that it should go on lineage, like a kingship, so that Ali, who was related to the Prophet, should be the Khalifa when the Prophet, before his death, according to the majority of Muslims believe, had said that Abu Bakr would be the Khalifa. And so that was one of the fundamental bases. Then one of the things that I encourage people to read in the West is the story about Karbala. It was in the news with the Iraq war about Imam Hussein and the fight that they had. It is similar to some of the Jewish fight to the death against other people. I've heard about Masada or something like that. Is not succumbing to an evil or tyrant ruler. And that was the basic difference. Like I was talking earlier, my family is fairly big and several thousand people, and we had Shias and Sunnis within our family. But then in the last few years, there has been this discord between Shias and Sunnis to the level of, I mean, literally killing each other. But now the Muslims are saying that we really need to go back to the 5 pillars and the basic fundamentals and not let these minor differences stop us. Because one of the things that I failed to mention, I did talk about the golden age of Islam, and Islamic civilization contributed immensely to the Western civilization. I mean, this is a fact. When Europe was in the Dark Ages, it was the Arabs, they were the Muslims that saved the Greek architecture, gave birth to algebra, etc. You want to go ahead?
I would like to add something. cutting off the questions if you don't mind, okay? There are a lot of people here this evening that are here for the first time. So I would just like to add that from a position and a point of view of tolerance, and whether it's religious tolerance or human tolerance, for those that don't know, I'm a Holocaust survivor. And I was born in Warsaw, Poland, and I represent the 10% of the Jews that were not killed by the Nazis. And you want to talk about terrorism, okay? There were 3 million Jews killed in Warsaw, 10% survived, I'm one of them. So evenings like this are very, very important to me. And it's very important for everybody here to understand that the word terrorism should not be labeled only on Islam. It's labeled on the whole world, because everybody's responsible for it. There isn't one sect that is responsible. Everybody's responsible. And evenings like this, hopefully, will eliminate that in the future. In our lifetime, I hope. And as I always say, if you save one child, you save the world. And that's what we're trying to do here. And I want...
Yeah, the problem I can see from Americans' point of view and even others is that when Muslims or people with Muslim names use quote from the Quran, and like this secular guy, Saddam Hussein, and everybody knows he was not a practicing Muslim. Some people might say that Osama bin Laden maybe practices Islam, but there are some people that believe that he at least looks like quote-unquote a Muslim with a beard, etc. But Saddam Hussein was completely a secular guy with no values except butchery and thievery and stuff like that. But then he put Allahu Akbar on his flag, and then he talked about how you have all these speeches still coming out saying having a holy war, etc., and quoting from the Quran. So that somebody who just listens to the headlines, just listens to CNN, they think, well, this is maybe what the religion talks about. And that's one of the reasons for this talk. And it's basically a primer, because in a short while we cannot get into the depth. But the reason there are 1 billion plus Muslims and people still follow this man called Muhammad and the scriptures, I mean, how many people will follow me? I mean, my wife is in the back, and she doesn't even follow me too. And I will be accused of being a male chauvinist. But there is some magic to it. There are certain really good things about it, and that's what gets people like George and myself so upset, is that it's these criminals and idiots that get the mic, get to kill people. I mean, I grew up in Pakistan. I mean, I went to the US Embassy. I was as far as Alan Greenbaum is maybe twice that distance. There was no, to go to the USAID office, went to the library. There was no, now, I mean, it's a completely different ballgame. And it is our obligation as people of the faith, people with values, people that care, to make a difference, to not just like so many people are doing in Thousand Oaks, just watch CNN, but be involved. And that's why, George, I think I would like to at this point say, one of my goals is, and I came to this temple in 1991, it's 12 years. I mean, it seems like yesterday, but it's a few years. Karen Maru is here. She's my neighbor. She went to the services. We need to, speech making is great. Some of the scholarly mention is good. But we need to have, I would like to have a dialogue, a working group with the caring people of this temple before Rabbi Greenbaum retires. And I would ask, I don't know who will be next, but I would like at the end of this meeting to not just be a waste of he was good, his PowerPoint didn't work, etc., but to exchange some phone numbers now and maybe later and have some kind of a potluck evening together to